So in prep for today, we were asked to sort of to take on the glasses of companies that are trying to raise funds in the field of oncology, and we have tried to make our own questions. And in case we do not cover, please just let us know. So we wanted to start off with sort of setting the scene for oncology investments. How does it look today? Oncology is, of course, no need to say that here, is a well-established indication area. Science is racing along with shorter and shorter iterations. We have much better research tools than we had just 10 years ago. We have sequencing, doesn't cost a dime, practically. We have many different ways of getting a deeper understanding of our particular indications in the various companies that we sit in. But as regards to getting these great ideas funded, what is the likelihood and what are some of the biggest concerns? And I would like some comments from my fellow panel members here. But just at least my take is that there, in particular, immuno-oncology has become, of course, extremely popular. It's a new, activating the immune system in order to help fight cancer, great idea. It's done in very different ways, though. And one of the big obstacles for getting financing today is to differentiate the particular product that you're sitting with from the rest, from the crowd. And I think that's definitely one of the major issues in case one is raising funds for oncology. And I think
I can kick off in that respect. So about the possibilities in the deal flow, I have a very disappointing message for you. We can only invest approximately 1% of the opportunities we see. So competition is huge. And I think the scientific developments are very impressive. It's like the ICT sector, it goes more than exponential. We know so much more, the sequencing indeed, the signal pathways we can line out. So there are a lot of very good possibilities out there, science-wise, developmental-wise. But it's very tough to select the right opportunity. What you see in many cases, it's the old blockbusters. That system is changing a little bit, although some of the checkpoint blockers are making great profits. But in general, you see more you could call it niche busters, that it's a very dedicated target for a specific population, what you're aiming for. And in that sense, there are, again, a lot of very good opportunities out there. So in that sense, for funding, I also think there's quite a lot of money out there, but you really have to come up with something extraordinary to get the attention and the right partners to further develop your technology.
I think, the great area we see now, breakthrough, certainly checkpoint inhibitors and cell therapy, CAR-Ts, but still there are lots of drawbacks from those great technologies. For example, the PD-1, PD-L1, they're only addressing less than 20% of a patient group. So how your approach to help to expand that coverage of patients, right? So that's some entry point. And for cell therapy, very expensive, very lots of toxic effect, and for PD-1 as well, toxic effect. So on those problems, do you provide solutions to those problems? So we see a lot of deals in IO space, and the innovations are really incredibly impressive. So lots of companies try different ways to addressing all those problems and even come up with good solutions. But the question is, at the end, the validation of your solutions, right? So first it is a problem solution, and then it's a validation of your technology. So all this takes a lot of effort. Of course, take us as an investor to differentiate which company you want to bet your investment on, right? So, but at the end, it's just the science behind each projects, which are real and which are It's just still fantasy, so we try to differentiate. Yeah.
Sure. And I think another aspect as well, getting a very deep understanding on the patient population, which of course is connected to the diagnostics, but with an offset in the disease methodology, or at least the pathology, the underlying mechanisms, that preferably at molecular level, so you really know which patients you should go for. And that's also where you could carve out an opportunity. Find that the niche patient population that do not respond to the primary or the most popular drugs these days, like Pembro and the sorts.
From our perspective, it's still very broad, because what we now see indeed, as the discussion is already going, it's IO, it's immuno-oncology, and of course we make very good progress, and it's an extremely promising field. But I still feel that also a number of other areas still are highly attractive, also for drug development purposes. For instance, one of our companies is working on protein-protein inhibitors, which previously was always called undruggable targets. I think with all the knowledge we have nowadays, we can design molecules that penetrate the cell membrane and are still big enough to do this protein-protein inhibition. Which gives you a very interesting tool to highly specific address some of the signal pathways and block those lines. So although I'm a very strong believer of immuno-oncology and we invest heavily in it, I think there are also still a lot of other opportunities, like also the nucleic acid based compounds, which we have seen suffered a lot from delivery. A lot of the RNAs, microRNAs have suffered from delivery to the right cell type in sufficient amounts. Also there we see now a second generation coming who are able to get sufficient in the cell. So also the nucleic acid based compounds are highly attractive. So actually on the whole broad field of different therapeutic modalities, I think there's a lot ongoing. And a lot of those are, of course, and that's the patient stratification, that's key for addressing what population should get which drug. Yeah, so I think in general there are more opportunities than ever for all the different drug modalities we've seen so far. Yeah.
Toshi, what are you looking at? Can you tell us something about what you think is most interesting from a technology perspective?
So that we also interested in the immuno-oncology space, but we also looking at the outside of immuno-oncology space. So that because one point is that Mark mentioned that we also interested in undruggable proteins. Kind of the one approach is a product like protein degrader approach, and we also interested in that kind of the. I think that the recent understanding of the molecular biology or the sequence to allow us to deep understanding of the more complex biology, like the chromatin regulation or chromatin remodeling complexes or other more difficult targets. And we also interested in new target. One of our portfolio company, the Stone Therapeutics, is a RNA epigenetics company. It's a kind of a new field in oncology. Such kind of the new science that we are always interested in.
Okay. So a question, the question that was raised is, what do we think will be the themes some 2-3 years down the road with oncology treatments? And I think, unfortunately, that the jury will still be out on the combination studies. We already see that right now, that the payers are looking at a more and more differentiated market because we're cutting out all the patient populations, and we are having first, second, third line treatments, and we find genetic subgroups, and so it's difficult for them to maneuver. So there's a risk that they will also be out, and they will have difficulties in handling the very complex discussion when it comes to market access, when we come up with all these combos, and some pretty wild proposals have been made that the doctors should have larger autonomous decision power in order to find out what's really best suited for the patient. So it's less decided centrally, but the doctor will be operating within a budget. That's at least one of the hypotheses, and then within that budget, he or she would be allowed to prescribe some drugs. Do you have any more comments or wise words you want to share?
Always.
Always.
No, I think what probably has become clear of this panel is that there's a lot of appetite. There's a lot of money out there. There's a lot of appetite in this oncology session in novel oncology drugs, but it's very difficult to get the attention of investors, because everything needs to fit. The technology should be there, the management should be there, the market should be there. So you should try to make everything as comprehensive and as complete as possible to stand out of the crowd of all the other beautiful inventions that are out there. And that's not an easy task, but never refrain to ask for advice from partners you might know or colleagues. Try to build the story as good as possible, and that's the only advice we can give. And be honest, of course. Not overselling to some extent is nice. You should make us hungry. We should see that carrot in front of us. But if it's too far away, reality is more important to see that we know what you're talking about, and that it's sound. That's some of the comments.
Good advice.
We see always this hockey stick. You invest 1 million now, you get 100 back. Well, if we see that hockey stick, it's already gone.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't take it serious.
Be careful, it's written into the investment agreement. So if you don't meet these targets, then no. Anyway, I think often when we are talking about very gifted CSOs, founders, when we suggest something or say maybe it's not like that, but it could be like this. Sometimes it's received the wrong way, and we are not here just to bother founders. We're here to share some comments and advice. So maybe a good attitude would not be to be defensive, but more listening when you talk to guys like us. And the strategy that I've applied myself when I started companies is to visit the least important VCs first, do your presentation, listen carefully what they're saying. And then improve your presentation before you go to the ones you really want to have on board. So, time out, it says the sign down there.
This last word, I think, being passionate about what you're doing, and you're the first one who need to really believe what you're doing, and you're doing whatever you do is great, because you're tackling the most important disease and cancer.
Yes, I agree. Thank you very much.